In today's political climate, the divide between maintaining sovereignty and engaging with international alliances has never been more acute. The United Kingdom finds itself at the heart of this dilemma once again, as Labour leader Keir Starmer attempts to navigate a path through a storm of criticism for his party's recent flirtations with closer ties to the European Union. If you thought Brexit was settled, think again. Starmer's push for an alignment on issues like food safety, carbon emissions, and even judicial oversight by the European Court of Justice has set alarm bells ringing in the heart of the UK's political landscape. Brexit, for all its supposed finality, continues to cast a long shadow, and the notion of taking back control is not just a slogan, it's the core of an ideology that has driven UK politics since 2016. For the Brexiteers, every step towards the EU is seen as a betrayal. Starmer's discussions on harmonising UK regulations with the EU, even on matters like food safety, are seen as an affront to the very notion of independence they fought so hard for. The idea that the European Court of Justice might once again have a say in British policies on carbon emissions is simply incendiary for those who feel the entire point of Brexit was to escape such external influence. And let's not be naive here. Starmer's strategy of making Brexit work might sound noble in theory, but in practice, it's a perilous game of political brinkmanship. The UK economy, post-Brexit, has been sputtering, and the pragmatic choice for any leader would be to seek smoother relations with the EU to ease trade and security concerns. But the price for this, as Starmer is quickly discovering, could be disastrous in terms of public perception and political fallout. A diplomatic olive branch to Brussels can quickly become a noose around his political career as Brexit loyalists are increasingly calling him a traitor to the cause. Starmer may have thought that aligning with the EU on a few technical matters would appease both economic interests and the public's growing frustration with post-Brexit realities. But in truth, any concession to Brussels is akin to throwing petrol on an already raging fire. The Brexiteers see these moves not as pragmatic, but as capitulation. To them, the mere suggestion of re-engaging with the EU on any level feels like a violation of the sacred vote of 2016, one that secured the UK's sovereignty and independence. This political chaos is exacerbated by the broader consequences of Starmer's EU rapprochement. If Labour's leadership fails to effectively manage the fallout from these discussions, it risks irrevocably splitting the country on the issue of EU alignment. At the very least, this is a public relations nightmare. At worst, it could set the stage for further political fragmentation, dividing the nation and reigniting the bitter cultural and political divides of the Brexit debate. But the mess Starmer finds himself in isn't limited to his EU dealings. Across the pond, in another battle over privacy, the UK government is locking horns with Apple over encryption. The issue has significant ramifications for both national security and personal privacy, and it underscores a disturbing trend, the growing government appetite for surveillance under the guise of security. Apple's recent decision to pull its Advanced Data Protection feature, ADP, from UK users in response to government pressure has sparked an uproar. The government, citing the need for national security and counter-terrorism efforts, demanded that Apple create a backdoor into its iCloud system, essentially providing a skeleton key to private communications. Apple, standing firm on its commitment to privacy, rejected the request, pulling the feature entirely for UK users. And rightly so. The notion that the government, through agencies like GCHQ, should have access to every piece of encrypted data in the country is as dangerous as it is ill-conceived. For the government to demand that Apple compromise its encryption protocols under the premise of fighting crime and terrorism is a dangerous precedent. There is no way to create a backdoor without making the entire system vulnerable. Allowing one government access to encrypted communications sets a precedent for others, whether authoritarian regimes like Russia or China, or even friendly Western allies. Soon, every government will demand the same privilege. The privacy implications here are staggering. If the UK government succeeds in forcing Apple to create this backdoor, it won't just be British citizens whose privacy is at risk. The global ramifications are profound. Once this Pandora's box is opened, there's no closing it. Privacy advocates are right to sound the alarm. What the UK government is asking for is essentially carte blanche access to everyone's private life. And no, that doesn't just apply to criminals. It applies to all of us. Here's the rub. If this keeps going, we are on the brink of a totalitarian slide. Demands for mass surveillance, justified as necessary for national security, undermine the very principles of democracy and liberty. If the government can control access to our communications, what's next? What about surveillance on our daily activities, our political beliefs, our social interactions? We are living in an era where technology is central to our lives, and if we allow this kind of intrusion, it's not just Apple's encryption that's under threat. It's the foundation of our privacy itself. The government stance here, much like Starmer's potential EU backslide, is a dangerous path toward losing more than we gain. When political leaders seek to bend the rules in pursuit of short-term objectives, they risk undermining the long-term freedoms that make a country democratic and free. We must demand that our leaders respect the principles of sovereignty, both in trade and in privacy, and stop giving away the very rights that make us who we are. There is a clear and present danger in the UK's political landscape right now. Keir Starmer, attempting to navigate the delicate waters of EU relations, risks deepening divisions at home. And the government's push for mass surveillance through encrypted data access threatens the very essence of personal freedom. The path forward is not one of compromise. It is one of resolve, preserving our sovereignty, our privacy, and our autonomy at all costs. Anything less is a betrayal.